And welcome back to John Bachman Now. I'm Allison Maloney. Well, the CDC just made it official, cutting isolation and quarantine time in half from 10 days to 5. With a milder Omicron variant, the move should help keep businesses and flights running on time. According to FlightAware, over 4,000 domestic flights have been canceled since Thursday, largely because of airline staff testing positive for COVID and being forced to quarantine, despite many being asymptomatic. Joining us to discuss is cardiologist and author of What Your Doctor Won't or Can't Tell You, Dr. EvanLevine. Dr. Levine, thank you for joining us. I want to talk to you. From what I hear, you did test positive for COVID. How are you doing and what are your symptoms?
I feel great. Maybe the slightest of a sore throat. Aside from that, I've had worse colds, but I did test positive. I am vaccinated and I did have the booster. I'm quite confident I'll be well.
Yeah, well, you sound good. You look good. So that's great. We're hoping for a speedy recovery. Doctor, the CDC has updated its isolation and quarantine guidelines 5 days now. Do you think this is the right call, and do you think it should have happened even earlier?
Well, I don't like to look backwards, but I certainly think it's the right call. There are very few people that are able to work now, whether it's the airlines or restaurants or even doctors' offices. You just don't have staff. So if you quarantine these people for 10 days, who's going to take care of everyone? So I think the 5 days is more than reasonable. People are not infectious after a few days. And we need to get people back on the job to help people, to serve people, to protect people. Instead of being in the house. So I think it's a very important call. I'm 100% for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think parents are too, because if their kids test positive, it's 10 days. And then if they have other kids in the house and they get it, then it's an additional 10 days from that. So I went through that in my house. I want to talk about these at-home tests, if you can get one, at least. We're still getting mandates, these mandates and rules against gatherings. These tests that people are trying to get their hands on, these at-home tests, are they accurate? Because I hear conflicting reports about that.
Well, first of all, I'd like to know where the Biden administration was. I call this Operation Sloth Speed. Okay. Why didn't we have these tests a year ago? And even if we talk about the tests, I'm not in love with these antigen tests. First of all, the sensitivity of this test, if you have no symptoms, is less than 40% at best. And with the new Omicron variant, possibly less than 30%. So you have the disease, you don't have symptoms, you do the test and you're negative and you go out, but you still can have the illness. Now, if you have a fever, symptoms, sore throat, could be the common cold, could be the flu, could be COVID, and you test negative, perhaps it's 70% sensitive. 3 out of 10 people go out and say, hey, I tested negative. But you know what? They still have the disease and they go out and it infects people. So I'm not in love with this test. The test helps if it's positive. You want to reassure yourself you have COVID. That's fine. But if it's negative, you need to go to your physician. You need to check. Do you have COVID? Or do you have the flu? Let's not forget, the flu kills 40,000 people each year. And you cannot assume that if you test negative, you don't have the flu.
Yeah, because these tests, doctor, are they even determining whether you have COVID or the flu? Because we're hearing that flu cases are spiking.
The flu cases are spiking. Of course, it doesn't detect if you have the flu. So if it's negative, you could have COVID, you could have the common cold, you could have the flu.
Yeah.
So you need to go to your physician. Flu is spiking for a number of reasons. Number one, lots of people didn't get flu vaccines this year. Last year, we had almost no flu. That led to a false sense of security. Number two, the flu vaccine every year is a guess. We guess based upon what we see below the equator, what they had. And sometimes the scientists, the doctors, the virologists, they guess incorrectly. This year, it looks like it's a different type of virus that the vaccine may not cover. So less masking, more going out, not enough people getting the flu vaccine. So sure, we're going to have lots of flu.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, doctor, we hope you stay safe. Keep us posted and have a great New Year's. We thank you for joining us. All right.